MarzGurl.
I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
And welcome to episode 84 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover Season 2, Episode 33 of City Hunter, titled Mokkori Contract, The Strange Journey of Ryo and a Bad Girl, Part 1.
It's another two-parter!
Yep, there's a lot of those this season. This one's going to be fun with questionable parts that I wish I had remembered sooner, so I could have warned you guys.
Well, that's what the warning is for right now.
Yeah, we're
it's
warning
fine.
you guys now.
It's like they do a questionable thing, and then they kind of backtrack it, like, oh no, that was bad, and we're gonna say out loud that was bad. But then also we're gonna do another questionable thing. But then we're gonna say out loud again, oh no, we shouldn't do the questionable thing. The questionable thing is bad. So,
like, it's doing better? Question mark?
I don't know. Big question mark right there.
So we'll go ahead and get started with that in a second. I did want to bring up this past weekend, we were both at conventions, the two of us. You were at one out in Houston, and I was at Anime Expo, and then you came for at least a day.
It was just 4 days straight of convention stuff, and I almost pushed it to 5 days, if not for the fact that Anime Expo ran out of day badges for the last day. That would have been really bad. We're lucky we're doing a podcast right now at all, because I just barely got my voice back like yesterday. That's how much I was talking to people.
You just had speaking engagements for several days straight.
I had like 4 different panels, plus opening and closing ceremonies, plus VIP dinner and VIP brunch, and there were just people I hadn't seen in years, and I was just talking to them for hours and hours and hours, and my voice was just gone.
But no, the reason I bring that up is because when you came back out here for Anime Expo, you actually kind of made a friend because of your phone case.
Okay, so we walked up to a particular booth at Anime Expo that was just selling a bunch of stuff from Japan, just random knickknacks and pictures and little toys and stuff, and you found Kamen Rider stuff that you liked, and I had to go up to the person selling it, but everybody at that booth, there were like 2 or 3 different people in some way, shape, or form running that booth, and they were Japanese, and the person like doing the sales themselves spoke basically no English, and she's dressed as Shippuden Naruto.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, she's trying her best to communicate in English, and sometimes she was using Google Translate at people.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my best to communicate in Japanese with this person, and we ended up being able to make a purchase. In any case, eventually she tells me, also, I am selling CDs because I'm also a musician, and I'm like, you know what, we're having a nice conversation in Japanese, I'm gonna buy your CD. And she's like, great, do you want me to sign it for you? I'm like, sure, go ahead and sign it. She's like, great, do you want to get a picture together? I'm like, yeah, let's do that, let's get a picture together. But my phone case has Ryo on it, and you're taking the photo of us with my phone, and she's like, oh, City Hunter? I'm like, yeah, City Hunter. You like City Hunter? I love City Hunter. And she's like, oh yeah, Saiba Ryo, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yes, Saiba Ryo, blah blah blah. And I also love Kaori. And she's like, you know, they're coming out with that new movie. And I was like, yes, I'm excited about the new movie. And we're having this whole conversation in Japanese, and my Japanese kind of sucks, but we got through this conversation, and it was kind of nice.
So it's the first Japanese conversation you've had of any sort of practice in a couple of years
kind of
now.
A while, but she gave me the Nihongo Jozu. The oh, your Japanese is so good. And then you have to give them back the Ie Mada Mada Desu. The no, I've still got a long ways to go. Like, it's this kind of an act that both parties of that conversation agree to perform. Is the Japanese person says, your Japanese is great, and your canned response must be, no, I've got a long way to go. It doesn't matter how good your Japanese is, that's always how the conversation goes.
Look, the bottom line is, I got my Kamen Rider merch, and you made a connection over City Hunter.
I did. It was a good conversation. It made me happy.
Which also goes to show you more people than we thought are excited for this new City Hunter movie.
Well, I imagine more Japanese people are excited about City Hunter than most American people are. I didn't see any other City Hunter content of any variety at Anime Expo. Not a cosplayer, not so much as a picture, okay? I did nothing.
I remember I was at the Bones panel where they were playing Anime Name That Tune, and I was guessing incorrectly on purpose, right? So they're playing all this stuff, like they're playing Ready Steady Go from Full Metal Alchemist, and I just guess out loud, City Hunter! It's like, I know I'm wrong, but it's for me. I'm making me laugh.
I understand. It's cute.
And it was funny, so like, we'll talk more about this at the end of the show too, but we're changing up social media a little bit. We're on a couple different platforms now.
We're on platform. This is why I was like, we need to be saying Twitter for now at the end of all of our shows, because like we've just been able to tell for the last few months, we are on the Titanic sinking right now, and every episode is us as the band playing us out, and we just don't know how long our 2 hours until it sinks is.
Exactly. But one of the things we noticed is that over on Threads, which is one of the many different lifeboats people are choosing to get on, Discotheque is over on Threads now.
They sure are.
And their first post was City Hunter, specifically sharing the video of Sarah, this current opening that we're going through right now as we're covering...
For City Hunter 2,
For City Hunter 2, as we're going through this podcast. And I think, well, that's just great. I appreciate that so much, Discotheque. They even said, best opening.
I mean, you're allowed to think that. I think it's a very good opening.
Yeah, they're allowed to think that because they're right.
It's a very good opening.
It is the best opening.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll talk more about that once we get to the end bumper. For right now, that's all the updating we need to do. Let's go ahead and get into this two-parter where we're seeing that we're basically dealing with a missing persons case.
Kind of? I mean, we know where they are. It's just we have to go get them.
Well, yes, but we have to actually get all that out of the way first. So first, we see at the top of the episode, we're at Bar Polestar, which I want to say we've seen before.
Maybe? This definitely looks like one of these really little back alley kind of places.
Kind of seedy, not a lot of patrons in there.
So a woman walks in there. She's in kind of a business suit and skirt. Is it green? I think it's green.
Yeah.
Like, interesting clothes to wear out to a bar, but all right.
This is kind of a dated reference. If you know how any of the characters on Designing Women dressed, she's dressed like that.
I mean, yeah, okay. And she sits at the bar, and I'm like, hey, what's Rio doing as the bartender? Like, you don't see his face, but it's the back of his head, and like, that's his hair. Come on,
well, yeah,
now.
because you hear the bartender ask, what would you like to drink? She orders a drink, and from behind, you can see he's very stoutly built, with a very familiar haircut, and you recognize the voice, so it's like, oh, that's Rio.
I don't know why we're hiding him. I don't understand. We know it's him. Bro, we know it's you. Stop hiding.
And so as the woman is sitting there at the bar, 3 dudes come in and accost her like, hey, you're coming with us.
And she's like, no. And then Rio is like, hey, cut that out. And they're like, no, we're not gonna cut that out. And Rio's like, would you like an XYZ cocktail? And we're like, oh, he said the thing that we haven't heard in like a long time. But the XYZ cocktail doesn't mean anything. It's just like a catchphrasey sort of a thing right now.
Yeah, because we haven't heard of it in weeks.
Oh, well, far more than just weeks.
I'm
like
being
months
generous
at this point.
But yeah, he kicks these 3 guys' asses, and then we get the introductions out of the way. So this woman is our client for the week, not the person we're focusing on, but she is still important. So it's this woman by the name of Hiromi Ayuhara, and right now she's having this conversation with Rio as they're on a boat heading out on the water. I don't know why they decided to get away on boat. The street's perfectly usable.
Well, I mean, okay, so they are kinda close to the water when you're looking at the opening shot of, like, docks, and there's bright city lights. It was a really interesting animation effect, all glowy and rainbowy of all the neon lights off in the background. Anyway, yeah, I guess they decided boat is closest. Let's go by boat.
And again, we have to ask that question, does Rio own a boat, or did he just commandeer a boat?
I think right now he just took a boat.
He commandeered a boat, alright. So she's giving Rio the rundown of the basics of what she wants him to do, and she's saying, well, look, I need you to find somebody for me, a missing person of sorts. And Rio immediately asks the obvious question, well, if it's a missing person, that's not what I do. Why don't you ask the cops? And she says, well, the cops aren't going to help me. I already tried that.
And so Rio's like, okay, fine, I will help, but you have to pay me in giving me a boner.
You have to pay me in Mokkori. I also do loans. I also do down payments. I will take one ass grab right now, and we can get the ball rolling on that. And before he can reach all the way to the booty, we see the 100-ton hammer just whipping through the air like a batarang.
Or a boomerang, just
and just pow! Right in the face.
We're lucky it's apparently made of wood and can float, because now Rio's been knocked off the boat and he's floating in the middle of the water on this 100-ton wooden hammer, and Kaori is jet skiing by on what is basically a Sea-Doo. I mean, I don't know that that's the brand, but it's this standing jet ski, and she's just kind of This is very comical, passing by in the background on a standing jet ski.
And she's kind of dressed like April O'Neil right now, just top and bottom background's all in yellow.
It's not a jumpsuit, but yes, she's got yellow pants and a yellow jacket.
And along with the red hair, she kind of looks like April O'Neil. A little bit. And so she introduces herself to Hiromi like, hi, I'm his partner. Sorry about that. Let's do business. And so now that introductions have been made, Hiromi goes ahead and lays out the actual details of what she needs done. So the person that she wants Ryo and Kaori to look for is her soon-to-be sister-in-law named Sakura Morimura. And apparently she's the head of this really mean biker gang called the Pirates.
So she's going to be new sister-in-law because Hiromi is engaged to be married to Sakura's older brother.
Right. And Ryo still doesn't want to take the case because that means Hiromi is no longer available. And Ryo's not exactly trying to be a bastard right now, but Hiromi sees he's starting to hesitate on taking the job, so she tells him, look, I'll do anything. If you take this job, I will make good on the promise we just made.
Even though they didn't really make that promise. Like, he just said that was what he wanted, and now she's saying, okay, I guess it's a promise, and she's really giving him these big watery eyes. Just really big and shimmery, lipid pool eyes. And Ryo's like, okay, great, that's down payment for me. I get to do Mokkori with this woman before she gets married. That is what our agreement is now, even though I'm not even really gonna verbalize that that's what this agreement is. I think we're making a lot of assumptions here.
He's assuming he is her hall pass, is what that is.
Right.
So Ryo's out on the street the next day, and he meets up with a Yakuza informant. And this is the first time I've ever seen, one, Ryo having any sort of positive relationship with the Yakuza, and two, the fact that he might have multiple, because it's brought up here in conversation, multiple Yakuza informants.
Well, I think that we have seen evidence in the past that a whole ass Yakuza family knows who he is, and actually does like him. And you remember the one time that one Yakuza patriarch wanted him to take over and become the next patriarch? I think it's just a matter of which Yakuza families are okay and which ones are definitely not okay. But either way, Ryo doesn't want to be Yakuza, and the Yakuza who know who he is mostly don't want to fuck with him. So there's this particular Yakuza member who's just strutting around on the street and bumps into Ryo, and we learn this way that this guy is an informant to Ryo, probably because he's just scared of Ryo, and so he's willing to give up this information to Ryo because he's a little bit afraid of him, and like, oh man, he could really wreck my shit if I do not give him some help sometimes.
So they go aside to this little sweet shop where this informant lets Ryo know more about the pirates.
They're getting some crepes.
Yeah, it's a crepe shop. You see a bunch of kids running around in the crepe shop, about high school age, and Ryo's like, alright, I appreciate the information, thanks about telling me about the pirates, where are they located? And the informant says, okay, they're out on the waterfront, you can find them there. And Ryo's like, great, that's plenty to go on, I'll pay you back for this information later.
Or you could pay me back right now. The informant, it turns out, is not just afraid of Ryo, he might actually be kind of sweet on him. He's giving him these big old, again, big wet watery eyes, and is just kind of...
He's got shoujo eyes.
He's got big old shoujo eyes, and you know what? Pretty sure this man is gay.
Pretty sure he's gay for Ryo.
Pretty sure he actually, like, really likes Ryo. And it's not even, this isn't, like, a sexual come-on so much as it is, like, he just really wants to spend more time with Ryo. Like, he might have romantic feelings in the direction of Ryo. And Ryo, you know, he's not interested in this guy, but it's interesting, he's not doing the thing that he often does where he's a big homophobic piece of shit.
Right, he's not having the gay panic right now. He's just kind of tell him, no, it's cool, we'll meet up later, we'll talk later.
I mean, he's a little nervous about it, like he clearly is not actually interested in this guy, but to me it doesn't come across like this is a homophobic reaction. It's more like a, I really need to get out of here, and he's just not the person I'm interested in. And the guy is just like really sad. Oh, Ryo, you big dummy.
Low-key, it has the same energy as, you remember the Thanksgiving episode of Bob's Burgers? When he keeps going back into the meat counter, and he keeps trying to order another turkey, and the guy on the other side of the counter thinks Bob's hitting on him.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
It's a little like that, and I was like, this is not a really terrible interaction with a gay character. It's a shame that we don't see more of this guy, but cool, now we know this guy exists.
So now Ryo has to hit the road, and he's heading out on the highway, and runs into the pirates as they're all cruising down the highway, all of them together. They're brightly colored, and like pinks and greens, real early 90s colors, you know?
Even
Very
though it's
neon.
the late 80s.
Well, we're almost there.
Their faces look like the colors of windbreaker jackets of the time period. That's the color.
They have various states of... No. You know what they look like? They look like the Misfits from Gem and the Holograms.
Yeah, I mean, that was the look.
That was the 80s.
That was the 80s. We're talking...
Glam rock.
We're talking kind of glam rock looking, but no, specifically Japanese.
Oh, Visual K.
A little leaning into Visual K. Somewhere between glam rock and Visual K, which are very similar, but kind of go off in slightly different directions.
Well, like Visual K was influenced by glam rock, right?
Very much so, yeah.
Man, I can't remember the last time I had a conversation about Visual K.
And that's where that conversation stops. All right.
And so, as we see Ryo driving through and weaving through all the different bikes, we see that there's only so much animation budget for the background this week, as Ryo passes the same building like 3 times in the course of about, 8 seconds.
Yeah, he is driving through a big old group of these motorcyclists, but he pulls up specifically along next to a dude riding his motorcycle, and he's got a girl riding along the back of it. And I think Ryo's really just trying to get a rise out of them so that he can kind of get them to stop and get them to take him to a specific place, right? So he's driving up alongside this pair and just reaches over and touches the woman on the back of this bike.
Yeah, he kind of just rolls down his window, he's like, what up? And then just grabs some butt.
Which, it sucks, but it is very successful at what he's trying to do in trying to get them to be like, hey, what the fuck? And pull over and just stop driving so that they can try to mess him up, but he knows that they're not going to mess him up because he's Ryo. We're like, he's fine.
And so that was enough to get him taken to their base of operations, which is further somewhere in the docks. They've got him chained up, and they take him in front of Sakura, who again is the leader of all of these ruffians, these hooligans, and she's trying to be intimidating toward Ryo, like telling him, hey, you know what happens if you mess with one of our own. Show him what happens. And so this lieutenant, I guess, in the Pirates tries to like punch Ryo and mess him up, and Ryo just ducks out of the way.
These guys are pretty bad at what they're doing. Like, they're clearly not trained professionals in any sort of way, and Ryo is. And Ryo, having managed to dodge extremely successfully, has found his target,
which was Sakura, who's right here in the room. He's managed to get out of his chains, make his way over to Sakura, and proceeds to touch her butt too. And this is where we have to take time out to remind the audience, and Ryo does too, that Sakura is only 16.
And I mean, it's great that Ryo's like, you know what? 16-year-old butt just doesn't do it. And I'm like, well, great. I'm glad that you've told us, but why did you do it in the first place?
Yeah, maybe just don't touch the 16-year-old.
Maybe
How about that?
Don't even get started. Don't even get started doing it. I'm glad that you know it was wrong and bad, and you decided, you know what? Yeah, I have definitely confirmed I'm really into adult women and not children. So maybe just don't test the waters every so often just to check. Do I like 16-year-olds? I guess not. Like, let's not. Why are you?
We don't have to go through the song and dance, man. Just stick to your guns. Stick to your one gun in your jacket.
Yeah, that's the one gun.
And so he scoops up Sakura and he's like, all right, well, I'm leaving. I got what I needed. And everybody else in the room was like, hey, what do you think you're going to do? Just take her out of here?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm going to do.
And so this lieutenant guy pulls a knife and he does that really super stereotypical thing of he licks the blade.
Oh, well, this guy's definitely going down. Nobody who licks their knife actually manages to get through that fight.
No, that's just, you're writing a check your ass can't cash. And so they try to get at Ryo, and Ryo just kicks everybody to sleep.
He's actually doing a pretty good job of kicking this episode. There was one earlier in the bar, there's this one now, there's gonna be another one later. He's actually doing pretty good at the physical fighting this week.
And so seemingly Sakura is kind of impressed by this display of strength from Ryo, like, oh, you're strong. I like strong guys. You want a girlfriend?
And he is like, nope, you're still 16, still not interested. Well, thank you. This is what we should have said in the first place. We should have been saying this the first time. No need for butt touches, okay?
So they get in the Mini and they're heading back towards Shinjuku, because I imagine they're somewhere near Yokohama where all the docks are.
I mean, probably.
And Ryo has to explain, well, I guess you're not fond of not knowing anything, so I guess I should explain. I've been paid to retrieve you. I've actually been paid by your future sister-in-law to get you back.
back. And she's like, oh, hell no, you are not taking me back to her. Oh, I take it you don't like her, huh? Oh, no, I do not. And she tries to grab the steering wheel away from Rio because that's how much she really does not want to go to this other woman. And we have to reuse some animation, and the car is like spinning out on the road.
It's like animation from 2 weeks ago,
from
right?
like the episodes with Robert in them. So yeah, either last week or the week before, something like that. And it spins off the road and it goes through the guardrail. Like up to that point, that block of animation is reused. And not only do they go off this cliff and past the guardrail, it just nosedives straight into the ocean.
So let's go over that real quick. So over the last 2 episodes, Ryo's Mini got shot the hell up by everybody involved with that.
And there's no way, like, the Mini that we have seen in this episode is like brand new, okay? There's no way he didn't get a brand new car. Even if it was looking like it was kinda drivable by the end of those 2 episodes. It was shot up, he drove it through the forest, tore the shocks all to hell and back, right?
Because all the windows are blown out.
All the windows are blown out. So it's so badly damaged, there's no way this isn't a brand new Mini Cooper. There just isn't.
Because more often than not, we've come to the conclusion that when there's a certain amount of damage, Ryo just kind of wads it up like a used piece of paper and then just gets a new one.
And so now, this one only lasted about 10 minutes, and now it has been driven nose first into the ocean and sinks. It's gone. We don't see it again for the rest of the episode. Rio has to state throughout the episode, somebody sank my car and my wallet along with it. That car is gone. We've already lost whole ass other car.
I do believe this is the record for the shortest amount of time it's taken for Rio to wreck a Mini.
Yeah.
This episode right here, episode 84 of City Hunter 2.
No, episode 84 of City Hunter, episode 33 of City Hunter 2.
Yes, this is the shortest amount of time Rio has wrecked a Mini Cooper. A new record.
If we see another Mini Cooper, it's gonna be brand new. It's not gonna be like, oh, we lifted this out of the ocean and now we're just gonna drive it again.
Yeah, that's not happening. And I don't think he gets it back next week either.
I don't recall, but I don't think so.
So luckily, Sakura and Rio were able to get out of the car and they've swum over to the shore. They're trying to dry off.
And Rio does this thing for a second where, like, he's telling her, maybe you should try and get dried off. It's not my fault if you catch a cold, especially because you're the one that drove us into the ocean. And for a second, Rio is like, hey, she's looking not half bad while she's wet from ocean water, and then has to smack himself in the face and be like, no, she's 16. The big neon lights in his head, she is 16. Yeah, come on, man, we don't need you to repeat this. Like, we've gone over this 2 or 3 times already. We know she's a 16-year-old girl, and you, generally speaking, are not attracted to anybody under the age of 18, so why are we still doing this? Why is this even a conversation you needed to have? I'm glad you came to the conclusion, again, that you don't like 16-year-old girls. Maybe just stop!
And as he's having this thought battle with himself, Sakura takes this moment to go ahead and push him back into the water and then just take off. And so she's out on her own, still dripping wet, has somehow made it back to the docks, because I guess they didn't make it that far?
I guess not. She walks somewhere trying to be by herself, and just as she's about to sneeze, you hear Rio sneeze from, like, behind some other
shipping
containers. And she looks around the shipping container, and Rio is nearly naked down to his boxers and hanging all his clothes out to dry. And he's like, great, you're here, get over here, get your clothes dry too. But actually, he doesn't, like, have her strip or anything. What he does do, though, is he's just been carrying a pair of handcuffs, I guess. He lost his wallet, but he still has a pair of handcuffs on him.
I mean, that seems to track for somebody like Rio, somehow.
I guess.
But I'm gonna bring this up. So, he cuffs her to him, and he's like, hey, I don't have the key. Key's in my apartment, so we're stuck together now. Did he not put the cuffs on her before or after he got dressed?
Oh, it was before he got dressed, so I don't know how he proceeded to put on his shirt and jacket after that.
Yeah, okay, I was wondering about that.
He would have to do it over her? Even then, that doesn't make any sense.
Like, it's one of the stupid things, like, just because it's something we saw recently. So we saw episode 1 of My Adventures with Superman last night, and there's kind of a continuity mistake. At a certain point, Clark loses his tie, tie, and then Lois comes running to find him. He's tieless. She comes running into his chest like, oh my god, Clark, you're safe, thank god. And then you look up at Clark again, and he's magically put his tie back on.
And I mean, look, okay, he's Superman, okay, he's really fast. You could just say he suddenly realized he was sans tie, and he really quickly put this tie on. But the real answer is just the animators forgot.
Yeah, it happens sometimes, we get it. But same thing here of like, okay, Rio, you handcuffed her before you put your shirt and jacket back on. How'd you do that?
How did you put your shirt and jacket back on?
But we're just not going to talk about it. We're not going to worry about that right now. And so now they're having to walk through Shinjuku. She's complaining, I don't want to be walking. And he's like, well, it's your own damn fault.
Too
we
bad.
had a car.
Well, suddenly, my car's at the bottom of the ocean. I wonder whose fault that is.
Sakura.
Well, get a taxi. I can't. My wallet is with the car. So I guess we're walking. That's the decision you have made. Good job.
And so as they're walking, they're starting to like duck through alleys now because I guess they're trying not to be spotted. But that doesn't work because a whole truck full of pirates shows up. The gang, the
gang
pirates.
named the pirates.
And so they see them, and Sakura says, oh, great, they found me. Rio points out, yeah, but they don't look too happy to see you.
Like, why are they not friends with you anymore? Well, I guess we don't really want to find out, so we're gonna run away now.
And of course, as they're running, the pirates see him running away, and they're like, get him! And so now there's this huge flood of people, more than were on the truck, all right? The truck maybe had about 20 guys on it.
But now there's another group of dudes from the other direction, and they're starting to get pincered off down these little back alleys. They don't have a lot of places to go.
And Rio's like, how many dudes do you have in this gang?
Oh, like 200 or 300?
And they're all here.
For some reason.
So they're ducking through alleys, trying to get out of the way of these guys. They find a dead end with a manhole cover down at the end, and we see that there's some graffiti on the walls around them.
Some of it's in English, some of it's not in very good English.
Like we see the word hell, and seemingly repeated over and over again. It's on some of the pirates' heads or shirts, or here on the wall is the kanji for the word bad.
Yeah, these are not very creative bad guys. They're just a gang that's like, heh heh, the word for bad, because I'm so bad.
But especially we want to point out here on the wall, so it's done with, basically they did it with just a paintbrush. We had to take a good look at it, but right above the manhole cover is the word pussycat.
It's supposed to be pussycat, but man, Sunrise's written English doesn't always look great, because it certainly from a distance looks a lot more like two words, pussy and eat.
The C isn't very clean, so the C, just really quick looking at it, until we had to go back and pause to double check, did we read that right? The C is kind of a fat C, and so it looks like an E, so to the untrained eye, as you're just looking through this episode of City Hunter, it looks like somebody wrote graffiti on the wall that says, pussy eat.
I didn't know. I know that's not what they mean, but...
No, we checked. We're pretty sure it's cat. Just somebody went a little too hard, too much force on the paintbrush there. Just, I would have done it over, just to be on the safe side.
They weren't really thinking about, oh, what if this gets Blu-ray distribution in, like, 30 years? Nobody was thinking about that.
Nobody was thinking about that. And so we cut back to the rest of the pirates, having found this alley. They're like, hey, where'd they go? And they see the open manhole cover.
So the assumption is, oh, well, Rio and Sakura went down the manhole, and so they like form a nice line, like they really have queued up to go down this manhole, and they all go down there. But it turns out they did not go down there, Rio and Sakura. No, instead they're both hiding in the same trash can, even though there are two trash cans right next to each other. Well, I guess since they're handcuffed, it might have been a little obvious that there's a chain
linking two trash cans.
Trash cans together. So they have to be stuck together in the same trash can. And they jump back out of it, and then they lock the dudes into the sewers by covering the manhole with a giant box that says trash on it.
So basically he did the same move that Bane did to the cops in The Dark Knight Rises.
Right.
Just trap them all in the sewer. I mean, it worked there.
It worked here first.
No, you know what? You're right. Christopher Nolan ripped off City Hunter. Got it.
Yes.
So now we jump back to the apartment where Hiromi is there sitting with Cowdy, and they're both waiting for Rio to get back and commenting, He should have been back by now. And I get it's the 80s, but Coyote's wearing that, like, office casual outfit she wears with the bow tie.
Once again, the suit that looks like she's about to sell jewelry at the jewelry cabinet at Kohl's.
Like, they both look like they're about to sell me real estate.
Uh-huh.
And so Coyote finally asks Hiromi for some clarification. So what is it you guys are afraid of? What is it that you're trying to defend Sakura from? You're scared because these guys came at you at the beginning of the episode. What is going on? And Hiromi explains, well, if you must know, it's the Chinese mafia.
Excuse me?
Well, specifically, the Hong Kong mafia is after something that my fiance, who is only just now named Takao apparently was very good at making counterfeit US dollar plates.
He's a little too good at it, and now the Hong Kong mafia wants those plates, and he was like, no. And they were like, well, fuck you, we're gonna murder you and then take the plates. And they tried to shoot him up, but he lived, and so I guess he's mostly okay. He's recovering, he's okay. But he's like, well, I'm gonna hide these plates, and when I get out of the hospital, I'm gonna get revenge. But Sakura's like, oh no, Yule, don't. I don't want you getting in trouble with the Hong Kong mafia, so I'm gonna take the plates, and I'm gonna hide them somewhere. And now the Hong Kong mafia is after Sakura, and that's the real reason why Ryo needs to find her and protect her and bring her back to the sister-in-law. Yes.
Actually, yeah, that's everything.
Yeah.
A lot of exposition right there, but basically that's what it is. It's not the Yakuza this week. There was just the one gay Yakuza. We're glad he was included.
Yeah, gay Yakuza, that's some representation.
But really what we're dealing with is the Hong Kong Mafia. And so we go to see the Hong Kong Mafia since they've only just now been introduced. Sunrise was like, oh, we should probably animate them real quick. And so we're introduced to two guys we're only going to see just here is their boss, Mr. Egami, and his lieutenant named Misawa. And they're reporting back to each other like, hey, Mr. Egami, we've got a problem. Somebody's interfering with the operation. Well, who the hell's interfering with the operation?
Oh, is that City Hunter guy?
Shit.
Yeah, we know that guy. So these guys also know who City Hunter is. City Hunter is bad news.
Well, it's fine because we've given guns to the pirates and pirates like guns and they're going to run around and do our job for us. But then we hear a voice off in the corner saying, that's not good enough.
That's a stupid idea. Only one person can deal with City Hunter properly, and it's not your street gangs with guns, it's me.
It's good old Umibozu, who again seems to have only taken a job specifically because it would piss off Ryo and give him a chance to shoot him.
Or just because, it was gonna pay, and he doesn't care whether it's pay to shoot Ryo or not.
I mean, he would shoot Ryo for free, though.
Yeah, but it would be better if he could get paid for it.
I mean, fair. But see, this is the thing I wonder about, because this happens so many times over the course of the series. You think Umibozu's just that kind of guy who, where if he was lonely, I'm just putting that out there,
What?
if he was lonely, he can't just pick up the phone and ask Ryo, hey, you want to go bowling? No, he's got to, find a job that is specifically pitted against City Hunter so he can go see Ryo.
I think it's more like he likes Ryo well enough that he hears about these jobs that are intended to kill Ryo, and he's like, well, I can't let somebody else take that job. Somebody else might actually try to kill him. I'd better take that job, and then do a really bad job at killing him.
I mean,
on
there's that
purpose.
too.
Even though he could do it, he could very well kill Ryo, I think he chooses not to. I think he takes the jobs intended to kill Ryo, and then he acts like he's seriously gonna fulfill it, and then he finds some way to get out of it. And still get paid.
And then afterwards he's like, hey, so you want some whiskey? I honestly think that it's just a cover for him to hang out with Ryo because he can't just be upfront with his feelings.
Yeah, it's the way that men have been trained to behave in front of each other. He doesn't know how to act. He doesn't know how to be a good friend.
But yeah, now we know Umibozu's involved, so we go back out to the docks where Ryo and Sakura are still trying to duck these guys. And now, since it's only just now been mentioned by these Hong Kong mafia dudes, now they notice, hey, how come the pirates suddenly have guns?
Oh yeah, that does suck.
I guess they've been given guns by some bad dude. So the assumption is made that there are bad dudes out there badder than the pirates. So out of nowhere, Ryo's like, all right, we gotta get off the streets. We gotta get somewhere where they're never gonna find us. I know just the place.
We've got another Neko Manma joint. Here's the thing though, we went to that Neko Manma location 2 episodes ago with Robert because they go and they hang out there. It's a cabaret club and they kind of mildly dress like cat cat girls there.
They've got
and
cat
like,
ears.
Cute and sexy. Well, this is Nekomanma number 2. So they have multiple locations, okay?
It's like a taqueria. There's multiple locations. You get like, oh, I don't want to go to Nekomanma. I want to go to Nekomanma number 5.
In Canyon Lake, where I grew up in the Texas Hill Country, when I was growing up, there were some mom and pop video stores, and there was Canyon Lake Video and Canyon Lake Video 2, and 2 was spelled out T-O-O, as in Canyon Lake Video also. So, there are 2 locations. Yeah, I know exactly what that's like.
It's like deciding, oh no, I want to go to the good Denny's.
Yeah.
So they're at...
What Denny's is ever the good Denny's, Josh?
The one with a working bathroom.
Okay. Wait, which Denny's has an actual working bathroom? You're just making this up now.
I mean, there's got to be at least one out there in the greater Los Angeles area.
Somewhere.
Point being, Ryo's here under the pretense of, I'm protecting Sakura, but really he's just trying to get his freak on a little bit, get rubbed up on by some girls. They're just doing their jobs. This is what happens at a cabaret club.
I mean,
they pretend they're interested in you.
They're just getting paid.
And Sakura's like, I don't want to deal with this. I gotta get out of here. So she fakes that she needs to go to the bathroom. Ryo has to go with her because they're handcuffed together.
They're handcuffed together. So Ryo's got to stand outside the stall with the chain going through, like, under the door.
Under the door, yeah. And somehow, without anybody noticing, Sakura's got a giant-ass file on her. Like,
trying to file straight through this chain, which she's not really doing very well.
And I guess somehow there was somebody here at Nekomanma who recognized, hey, that's Ryo chained to a 16-year-old. I should tell somebody.
In the women's bathroom. I should tell somebody. No, they go in there like, step aside, we're gonna need that women's stall. And he's like, I can't really, I'm not gonna, I'm not moving.
There's a dude with glasses who notices Ryo, and then into the bathroom walks 3 of the pirates with Uzis.
So Ryo's like, okay, forget it, I'm going into the stall too, which Sakura's not really thrilled about, but like, what choice do they have? Immediately after he follows her into the stall, they start shooting up the stall.
They just start blasting.
And you're just like, well, where could they have possibly gone? Into the toilet? There's no way they could have escaped. And then the door drops off of its hinges, and there's a window above the toilet.
Very small window.
Small enough for, I guess, a little 16-year-old girl and a much larger, about 30-year-old man to get out this window.
He is somewhere between 20 and 30 years old, and he does not need to deal with this.
Oh, he's older than 20 for sure. I say he's between 27 and 32, if I'm to be honest with you.
I mean, entirely possible. And so you would figure, like, if I was Ryo, right? I'm getting shot at by 3 dudes with Uzis. I would head somewhere, one of 2 places. I'm either going to try and get back to the apartment, where I know I could potentially have other vehicles or other weapons, something else to deal with these guys, or I would go somewhere where there's no other people around, don't want anybody getting caught in the crossfire. What does Ryo do? He runs back to the docks. He runs back to the place that we're trying to get away from.
We're not making very good decisions right now, if I'm to be honest with you.
And so they get cornered here at the docks.
Of course they do. Again, they're constantly cornered throughout the course of this episode.
And apparently, like, all of the pirates are here. Everyone is here.
With guns. They've all got guns. Everybody's got a gun.
And they just duck behind this wooden box, Ryo and Sakura, and everybody just unloads.
And once again, you're like, how did they dodge a bunch of bullets? I don't know, Ryo's real good at that. He stepped just enough to the side and then pulled out his own gun. And Sakura's like, oh, so you're a cop. And Ryo's like,
sorta. Hit play on this boombox real quick.
And then he starts blasting.
Somehow, like, I get it. He's an expert marksman. I get it. This is an anime. But this one time, he uses 1 bullet.
And knocks all the guns out everybody's hands because that's how they're all lined up.
He used 1 bullet to disarm 4 people at the same time.
They're all just lined up that way. And then he kind of leads them over into like a pipe or something. And he fires his gun into this pipe where they're trying to chase him into. And the bullet is ricocheting around the pipe. And they're like, bullet.
And the pirates think, oh, there's more of us than there are of him. And so they try and chase him up this hill where up at the top there's a bunch of barrels of crude oil. And it's like, why did you just give him the high ground?
Forget it, there's no place left for you to go. Okay, I'm up here and you're down here. Guess what else is up here with me? Barrels of oil. And he just starts kicking barrels down. And
hey kids, you ever play Donkey Kong?
It's working. It's working.
And so they see these barrels of crude oil rolling down the hill towards them. They're like, get out of here. Get the hell out. And Ryo's like, how can I make this more dangerous? I'm going to shoot the barrels. So now there's flaming barrels of crude oil rolling down the hill at these guys. And they're just running. They run, all of them clean the hell out.
Ryo really could have put a lot more hurt on these guys if he had really felt like it. He was really kind of just playing with them at this point.
Well, really, he was playing with them the whole time, because none of these guys are marksmen. They probably never held a gun before in their life.
But he did a good enough job that they all ran away, and Sakura's like, hey, guns sure are cool. I'm gonna look at your gun now. I can't even believe that Ryo let his gun get out of his hand.
Yeah, that was really weird. Of all things, like, Ryo's got really good trigger discipline, and he's shown on multiple occasions that he knows how to handle that gun, and he tries to make sure that nobody else gets a hold of it who's not an expert with it.
But Sakura just took it out of his hands, and he's like, hey.
Give it back.
I mean, luckily, she doesn't shoot her own face clean off. Somebody else gets the gun out of her hand for them. Someone else has fired their own
44
Magnum at Sakura holding Ryo's gun. Knocks the gun clean out of her hands, which, you know what? Good. She shouldn't have been holding that gun in the first place. But now Ryo's like, oh my god, where did that bullet come from? Guess what? It's Umibozu. Umibozu is here.
And Umibozu's like, come with me if you want to live.
Well, no, he is not like that. Like, at all. He is like, that was a really big mistake. I can't believe you let this little girl take your gun. That was really foolish. Why'd you do that? And that's pretty much the conversation.
Well, it's not just the conversation. It's the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And we get that cool freeze frame that we saw in the preview for this episode last week.
We saw the end of the episode last week.
Somehow. That sounds like something my dad would say.
It does, yeah.
I saw the end of the episode last week. Because my dad talks like that. And yeah, we were here at a climax. You know, Umibozu has shown up. He's got his gun drawn on Ryo. Ryo is unarmed. What's gonna happen?
I mean, wait a week. God. Sheesh.
Yeah, so there's the episode. I could have done without all the 16-year-old groping. Didn't need that. Didn't like that.
I mean, thank you again, Ryo, for clarifying. You know what? I don't like doing this. Then just don't do it, man.
From both of us here at the podcast in the future, 35 years down the line, just don't do it.
Please stop. If you don't like doing it, stop checking to make sure you don't like doing it. Just stop doing that.
And so next week on the show, we're going to cover part 2, where it's seemingly more of the same. More action, more Umibozu. Umibozu eventually comes over to their side like they always do. And we're going to see if we can't get Hiromi and Sakura out of this mess with the Chinese mafia.
And can we run the Chinese mafia off? And what's going to happen to the plates of the counterfeit money? And will Ryo get another car?
And the prom's tomorrow.
Oh, no, I hope not.
I didn't even go to my prom.
I went to one of them.
Well, good for you.
There were 2 of them. I went to my junior, not my senior.
Well, there was no City Hunter at your prom, so your prom sucked.
No, but it was themed like Las Vegas, and that was pretty cool.
That's got nothing to do with City Hunter.
Okay, never mind.
Anyway.
So come back next time when we cover the 34th episode of City Hunter 2, Mokkori Contract, The Strange Journey of Ryo and a Bad Girl, Part 2.
And if you want to catch us outside this podcast, you can always find us both over on social media in most places. I'm at JoshKnightTheFirst.
And I'm at MarzGurl. Thank you all so much for listening to our 84th episode of MokkoriPlay. And if you don't come back next episode, I'm not gonna pay Josh.
You don't pay me anyway.